Hi everyone, my name is Sagal Farah and welcome to the Hidden Voices podcast. So this special episode is supported by the Greater London Authority. Our previous seasons are available to view on YouTube, SoundCloud and now Spotify, and you can follow for more community stories. So today's episode we'll be discussing how the pandemic has affected young creatives in London. In terms of the pandemic, as you'll all be aware, it's affected the whole world, and according to the Worldometers, there's been 215 million cases worldwide and almost 5 million deaths. So we'll be exploring how it affected us all individually. Thank you all for coming today. If we could perhaps go around and just introduce yourselves by your name. So I'll start. My name is Sagal Farah.
Hi, my name is Aliya.
Hi, I'm Lydia. Hi, I'm Ashlyn.
Hi, I'm Chantal.
Hi, I'm Lux.
Hi, I'm Patel.
Hi, I'm Raghad.
Great, thanks so much guys. So our first question is, imagine it's March 2020. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to a friend at the beginning of the pandemic?
I would say we respect one another. I think before and during this pandemic, a lot of people were very, I guess you could say, on the fence and could say like in denial or didn't have the willingness to do their research or broaden their mind into something that's actually a very serious issue, and didn't actually have respect for like one another. Just because they didn't see something didn't mean that it wasn't there, or if it didn't directly affect them straight away, it meant that it was some sort of like farce or a joke or things like that, when actually it's affected a lot of people. So I think respect is a really big word I would use around it, because it allows you to set boundaries and see how you actually interact with one another as well.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think during the pandemic as well, whenever there was a sort of social justice issue, like BLM for example, because we were all like at home, it made everyone sort of block everything else out and just focus on that cause and probably pay more attention than we usually would have. Yeah.
And I agree as well, because I feel that's also paved the way for a lot more really important causes and protests as well, of how people behave in them as well. And it also exposes a lot of injustices as well, which is really important, especially like physically, online. And then it allows you to like actually reevaluate what's going on in this world and where do you actually sit with all these things that occur.
Yeah, I think at certain points though, I personally found it a bit overwhelming. Just constantly sort of being bombarded with like really like difficult things to watch on the news, especially since it was very graphic when you were seeing like certain videos.
Yeah.
So I think, it also reminded me about the importance of stepping back and taking a break and just like a sort of digital detox as well.
Defo, I think because like you can be in such a bubble, like you're just like at home like reading this stuff and you like almost don't have anyone to talk to about it, so you like, I don't know, it becomes your whole world in a way. And so I think that's why like the boundaries are so important, because it's like if you don't get any sense of like what real world is like, you can just like think that everything on the news is real and like what everyone says is what goes, and then you don't have like a sense of like what your opinion is. You just like absorb everything that everyone else says and you're like what do I actually think about this?
I think that's why I think the advice for me is like reach out to people, because if you're just in the bubble and somebody reaches out to you, it helps you to overcome some of the barriers and you're looking from a different perspective what's actually going on. One example, because some of us continued working and other people didn't. So from the person, if you reached out to your family or friends who've been in bubble or staying at home, and then knowing from, you see a different side of the story and how other people are seeing.
Because for some people it felt like nothing changed the whole time, and for other people it felt like a very big like 180. So like for example, my brother continued to work throughout the whole pandemic. He didn't even do work from home. His whole routine didn't change. And it's like for me, I took like a big move. Everything that I had stopped. And then it's like, oh, how am I going to figure out like new ways to get what I want and what I want to do and achieve those goals?
It's a big change that we all had to overcome. It's more, and we adapted to other way, but the most important thing is respecting, reaching out and minimizing what the access we have from the news and the social media, because it can be really overwhelming what you're exposed to, and how you minimize it for your mental health well-being, really.
I'd say that your relationships are the most important things to get you through times of adversity. So, my advice would be make sure you reach out to your friends and family.
But on the flip side, I don't know, sometimes I loved talking to absolutely no one, and I was I love myself, and I love being by myself, the company, I'm my best friend. And sometimes you're oh yeah, I can never get this. When am I gonna be able to be alone and have an excuse of not being able to having to continue these things? Not that I didn't love those people in my life or didn't want to talk to them, but it's sometimes it's me time is in abundance, and I think for a lot of people couldn't handle it. But a lot of people found that it's so exciting.
So I think again, finding a balance.
Yeah.
Finding a balance for everything, really. I think we all have learned finding a balance to see your family, your friends, your work, and your me time. I think that's what we have learned through the pandemic, to utilize our time how it suits us best.
Get in tune with what you need as an individual, which will fluctuate throughout your life. Sometimes you might want some solitude.
And also, I think we were all running too fast, so it kind of told us, hold on a minute, look at yourself, think about yourself before anything else. And we all became selfish about it. Walking out the house, you're cleaning your hands, or not letting anybody in your house, we're meeting from 2 meter distance. And it was all about ourselves, so it made us think about ourselves, who we are and what we want to do. That's why some people were happy to meet and some others weren't. So I think...
But now I'm scared though, because it's I'm so comfortable being by myself that I don't want to leave the house.
Yeah.
As in I'm so I can be so content by myself. My whole lifestyle's kind of changed because I don't want to always give myself to things I don't want to do, and it's it almost feels like I've become more selfish because I know I can just take that time for myself now. But the people around me, I've noticed that, and I've turned down more events. Because I'm just more I just don't need to go to these things, and I've done a lot more music because I'm that's what I actually care about, and uni stuff is kind of sat at the back, and I don't know, LA's gonna change that as well. So yeah, it just kind of changed my way of living in a way, what I say yes to, what I say no to.
Priorities.
Yeah.
And selective.
Yeah.
Especially since there's a risk every time you go out, it makes me more picky over where I want to go. Because I know if I'm going, it has to be worth it. And
who you're gonna go with, because I'm if you don't wash your hands, I'm an OCD person anyway, and I love a clean house. I'm always even my housemate. I moved house, and I was this one person, I was if you're gonna eat, why do you not clean your dish straight away? I was there's literally germs on there, and I was that sort of respect boundary too, and I kind of became that really rigid I was the school teacher that everyone hated. Even to my parents I was clean this, do that, there's just there's this, and I'm and it was great for me because I was oh, now I have an absolute excuse to be super OCD, and I can bring that into other people, and I'm clean is better.
Yeah.
Or super clean.
Cool. So the next question is, what was the most challenging aspect of the lockdown, and what impact did the pandemic have on your mental health?
Mental health is such a huge topic at the moment. I think the pandemic has really brought out into light, and I'm really grateful for that, to be honest, because it's been such a taboo subject, and everyone's impacted by mental health. I mean, the statistics say, 1 in 5 people every year will have issues with mental health. I feel it's more than that, because just like physical health, it goes up and down. So yeah, it's had a huge impact on my mental health, and most people I know as well. Fearing for your life, fearing for the life of your loved ones, obviously that's going to take a toll. can cause a lot of anxiety and being left on your own as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially during the winter lockdown, just having like the gloomy weather and on top of that the lockdown, it was really tough.
It just makes you feel like you're like backed into a corner sometimes, doesn't it?
I think also like it made me even uncomfortable going to the hospital, thinking, you know, there's a COVID around everywhere in the hospital where they were dealing with COVID. So that also affects your mental health, being like you're sick, but you don't want to go to the hospital. You don't want to reach out to the care that you need, or you know.
Because there is actually bigger risk of getting even more sick.
Yeah, so everybody around you just want to keep extra care, but you don't want to go to the hospital because a lot of people around you knew they went to COVID, and they went to hospital and they developed a COVID symptom and they didn't survive. So you became afraid of something that you needed for your health.
Yeah, and for me too, like before COVID, I would never really got anxious ever, but then after, like social anxiety started happening for me because I was like just by myself, just with my family, like very close with them. So then yeah, when I go and I'm like meeting new people and doing new things and I haven't done that in months, definitely started making me anxious.
I agree, yeah, because most of the time I spent during lockdowns was just playing video games and interacting with people online, but forgetting what talking to somebody was like. Yeah, it's actually become more nerve-wracking than ever.
Yeah.
Because you just kind of forgot how you did it. You know, it's like baby steps again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Cool. So on a lighter note, did you develop any hobbies or coping strategies to survive during the lockdown, and what was your favourite thing to do? I know for me, I went on a lot of walks. I'd go on like 3-hour walks. Just like listening to podcasts and just like having my own space, like away from my family. Yeah, I think that literally kept me going during the lockdown.
I would say for me what kept me going is journaling a lot. Just pretending like I'm telling my friend what has happened, just literally journaling a lot every single morning, saying what's on my mind, what I plan to do. Just I think filling that gap of like, because I'm so used to talking to friends every day. Well, because of the lockdown, I didn't really have as much social interactions, hence why I went with journaling, and it definitely helped a lot.
I agree, because you can talk to your friends online, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same as face to face, and it's always like a hi, how are you, isn't it?
But you never feel the emotions. So when you talk to you see emotions and the connection, and that's what we like on being on social media or through text or.
Yes, and also considering like, because it was the first lockdown and everyone had a lot to go through, I kind of didn't want to reach out to friends with my problems. I kind of was like, I can't put more pressure on them. I need to like go to journaling, like just I would rather bring my friends up rather than putting more pressure on them.
Yeah, that's really true, especially since, you know, some people had, you know, family passing away and everyone was sort of going through their own thing, and you don't really want to burden them. I felt the same thing as well.
And that's a really nice like gesture as well. But I think it's also important to note that like if you are like going through it, it is okay to like tell those people that you care about, because you never know, like they might be going through it too. Which in this case they probably were, so it's always good to have that shared experience, I guess, in that case. It's just obviously how you deal with it, which is good.
I learned to do cosmic yoga to children. Cosmic yoga. It's basically children's stories or music, and they act it out in a form of yoga. And it's really fun. Like example, I don't know if you know, like Baby Shark, do everybody.
Yeah.
Doing a yoga form, and it's really used to join in, and we're doing it's a 5 to 15 minutes video, and it's really enjoyable. But doing yoga, but with the children.
Oh, that is amazing.
That's so cute, baby. I can imagine the shark costume.
And then she would dress up as the costume as well, and then used to yoga. It was really funny.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I did yoga, but not Baby Shark.
Makes me feel like yours isn't as funny.
Yeah, it's like I should have gone first. Yeah, I did a lot of like meditation, yoga. I like really went into my spirituality and like really like started like balancing all my chakras and like just really got into that, because I feel like, I don't know, I kind of like almost had like a spiritual awakening, just like realizing like what we all are, and like we're all just like souls, and like not to get too deep, but like there's things that matter more than all the surface level things that we often focus on. And like this was the first time I had the time to just like actually process that. So I did that, and I also started to produce as well, because I feel like there's not enough female producers, and I really want to get good and become female Kanye. And I just talked to my parents a lot, which is good. Like I developed a good relationship with them, and I saw them as people, not as parents.
And I think that's really important, because I mean, especially like from a South Asian community, like there is that sort of there is a separation, there is a barrier between you and your parents. Like you can't share that sort of emotional side, and that, I guess for us, like why we went into very like creative things, especially like through my music. That was like my form of like journaling and like expressing myself and having that outlet. But lockdown was really good for redefining that relationship, because even in an Asian community, or any community, like sometimes you feel like your parents don't understand mental health, especially because they're a generation above. But this one really allowed them to, like, because they went through it, and it's so sad that they have to go through something like that's kind of traumatic, but then it's like a shared experience.
That's what it's shared experience, so you're kind of feeling the same, and for the first time we felt we're in the same boat as our parents, so we experienced, because their experiences are different from ours, and this time we have experienced something very similar, and how it's impacted us. I think it made us realise, and as you said, we saw them as people, not just as parents, and I shared the same feeling.
I also got my parents into gardening because I hadn't lived with my parents for a really long time, and they were like, my mum was like cutting up toast for me and trying to like literally fork it into my mouth, and I was like, what are you doing? I'm not 3. So I went online, I ordered £200 worth of plants inside and outside, and got my parents into gardening, and now it's like blossomed them so much. They've got like a vegetable patch, and they've got like flowers, and they've got all these like plants like inside and out, and it was great because it got them off it allowed them to see me as like not a child, their child, but also as like, this is Jason, our child that's like grown up, who's an adult, who's like independent, responsible, like has like this like does all these incredible things, and actually we can interact together as actual professionals as well, and like friends. I guess I developed a friendship with my parents, which is so cool. And because then you see them in a different perspective, and they see you in a different perspective because you're grown up. But my mum was always like, I've seen this like really cool side to you, but you'll always be like, I'll always see you as like my baby, like my child, like I remember when you're like grown up. Because sometimes they can't ever not see that, you know?
I think also because our parents always miss us, and it's this at the pandemic made us realize that we miss them as well as much, and we were able to show that to them. And I think that was really nice for them, and then that's why I think we helped this build friendship and things like that.
Yeah, so true.
Well, that's really nice to hear. Yeah, I think also though, I don't know if you guys felt that pressure as well to like do a billion things, like in terms of painting and how to bake. It just got really overwhelming.
I think at the beginning we all wanted to do everything, you know, like we're going to do yoga or exercise in the morning, and then we're going to do this, that. But I think as the time went past, we kind of mellowed down and came to our own routines.
Yeah.
There was that pressure, I guess, mine as well, that everyone was doing TikTok and everyone was doing this
banana bread.
And banana bread. And I honestly did none of those things. I've never done a TikTok dance. I never baked banana bread. Honestly, I just sat making cocktails, chilling in my garden. I ordered sun loungers, and it was the best.
I ordered loads of toys, that's what I did.
It needs to be a balance, because it can get toxic when you sort of like we're in a pandemic. Just surviving that is enough, I think.
But I feel like that was the whole point of it, right? Like you slow down. And like people who are going real hard, it's like, what have you not learnt from this whole situation, which is like stop doing and like just be and like relax. Like life is here to be enjoyed. There's no rush for anything. Like you really don't need to run for like everything, and like you don't need to bake that banana bread.
you don't need to do it because everyone else is doing it, and I think that's what's important. It was like this hype culture that was kind of exponentially growing online was something that isn't necessary, and I think you either went with it or you didn't, and either was fine. You know, if you enjoyed doing that, great, but you don't need to do those things to be like accepted or be a part of like this crew or like go through a lockdown, because either way, beginning to end of this pandemic that's still going on, you know, hopefully ending soon, like we all went through that. It's all an experience, and you cope with it how you want to cope with it, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to do these things. These things don't mean that doing these things doesn't mean that like you're gonna make it through the pandemic or like you've achieved something, because it's not, you don't have to.
Also, we like accepted our mortality from this, so you realise life is short. Why do you have to do things to please everyone else and to fit in? Just be true to who you are and just do what you love. Because you're gonna die someday and regret it.
Nothing matters. Like,
And do what you can.
All that matters is what you do
Yeah.
right now.
And what you
What's
want to
in your
do.
power to do. Not like doing kind of things and not succeeding. Not do what it's in your power in your hand.
Yeah, the most of every moment that you've been given. You're blessed.
Definitely. So moving on to the next question. Have you changed as a person since the beginning of the pandemic, and if so, how?
I found a lot more patience.
Okay.
And that's because I always go at like a million miles an hour, and I'm like 24/7 working constantly, like going on to my career. And I can't say that like I'm not doing that still, but I think the way that I go about it, I actually incorporate rest a lot into my lifestyle, because actually if you don't actually have that balance, then like how are you going to function? Because the form of who you are doesn't function. You know, you can't give yourself to everything the way you want to, because you've literally got nothing left. And like lockdown really taught me to stop and actually understand that like I need to listen to my body, and I listen to it like a lot more, and I'm in tune with it. So even when I'm like ill, normally I would work through that illness, like work through that illness, like nothing will stop me. But now it's a sign from my body. It's like, stop, slow down, listen. What do I need? What do I think I need? What do I genuinely need? And I'm grateful for that, because that's like such an important lesson, that health is like the most important thing.
Especially during the pandemic, you realise how precious it is.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I can say like the first day of the first lockdown, I caught COVID like that, and I had it for 4 weeks, and I honestly thought it was like awful. And I literally had like no smell, no taste for 8 weeks, and I thought, am I gonna get it back? Am I gonna have this? Am I gonna have that? Like, because you get scared, like, because we don't know what is actually going to happen when this is gone. Am I actually going to be the same person?
We didn't know anything about what's going on. It was a new thing to everybody.
Yeah, how do you recover from
didn't
it?
know.
Will you recover from it?
Yeah. Would they ever come back? We didn't know symptoms, clear symptoms, what they were. So yeah, it was all new. And it was,
Yeah, I think for me it made me very introspective. I journaled a lot as well, and yeah, I just kind of took the time out to kind of look deeper and like question my behaviours, and yeah, I think it kind of helped with, like you said, just kind of slowing down and understanding myself better.
When you say question your behaviours, will you elaborate?
I don't know, like just in terms of kind of just sort of looking at the way I react to sort of situations, and kind of thinking what makes me like that and what triggers me, and just sort of delving deeper into those kind of things.
Was anyone ever concerned about like the environment and sustainability? Obviously we saw a lot of like natural change in the environment, and it made me think about, oh wow, we really are like just like trash. We literally are like trash as humans, like, because that's all we like produce. And seeing that clear,
It did make me think, if we were gone from this world would still thrive without us.
oh, and I think that's such an important lesson, because people think that when the humanity ends or something like that, like the world is going to end, and the world will not end.
No.
The world will not end. The world will recover.
It will thrive.
Yeah, it will thrive. Yeah.
Yeah, like that tree out there in the roof.
Exactly. Look at it.
Yeah, I think especially the past couple of weeks with the wildfires going on and
oh wow, yeah, I know.
We need to like really reevaluate climate change and how toxic we are like in this world. Especially when you compare it to the beginning of the pandemic last year, and there were so many statistics about how much cleaner the air became when we weren't going out. I think it's made me scared like what's going to happen to this world.
I think I watched the David Attenborough documentary. That's where it was like, oh my god, if he said so, then like we need to do something.
And I watched.
We need to stay alive so we can watch more of it.
Exactly.
And have you watched like Seaspiracy and Cowspiracy?
I've seen Cowspiracy.
Yeah, and they talk about like the industries and actually how they function and all like the political agendas so that they can continue to doing like the toxic things that they do. And so it made me think about, okay, what are the lifestyle changes that I can make like sustainably? So I actually like lockdown actually made me want to, I was like, okay, I really actually want to try to be a vegetarian. And like my mum's vegetarian, and so I actually did it like gradually because I was like, okay, if I'm in lockdown, like I'm not gonna have a takeaway because like that's not good for my health. So then I just was like, okay, if I'm gonna eat meat, I'll make it. But then I was like, oh, every time I kept buying chicken or something, like I was not using it, was just going off. So I was like, oh, this is wasted. So then I just naturally became a vegetarian. But then it made me think about, okay, I'm buying all this packaging, which is really not good, and none of it's like recyclable. And then I ended up finding like all these like independent farmers markets and things like that. Just like honestly, wherever you live, I'm telling you, there's literally some there, and the produce is amazing. Like I get 4 avocados for £1. Like you go in Tesco, you can buy 1 for £2. And it's so good because like that produce, like you're supporting like local businesses, the local community. They're the people that literally steer and actually support other local causes as well. You're buying produce that's like organic and fresh. There's no like waste in packaging. It's literally, then you talk about like how much like things are like traveling. So for example, like Tesco or like any supermarket, like how long did that truck drive to get that thing from there to here? Or that when you see like, oh, this fish came from Spain, or this vegetable came from Greece or Cyprus, and actually think this is actually on my doorstep, and someone that's 5 minutes down the road, like why can't I just do that? Because it actually reduces the carbon footprint. So it made me think about like, okay, what the choices I'm making, and actually if I'm just like conscious about it and like plan that, it makes me like, okay, I'm doing my part as like one person because I'm reducing the demand, you know.
It's true, if every person took part in making a change and stops supporting big chains, then, you know, they wouldn't have that money anymore to, you know, do more bio footprint on the planet. And if we all did that change to like do our bit in recycling and to reducing carbon waste, then I think things would get better. But it really takes each person to take responsibility.
And I think it also forces like those corporations to think about and change like the way they function as like businesses, and actually like take a hard hit that like, okay, these things that we're doing that are easy and the easy way out actually aren't working anymore, and we actually really need to be conscious about what we do and actually inspire and change the way that our consumers shop. Like I think that's a really big responsibility that they have as a business as well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's nice to hear that it's made you kind of think about the planet more. And just trying to like make the world a better place. So the next one's a bit of a long one. So has the pandemic caused any of you to alter your life plans? How did the lockdowns impact your relationships with people, and how did you stay connected to people during the lockdown? Should we break it down? Okay, so how did the pandemic, cause any of you to alter your life plans?
Stop traveling.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I lost my job and then sort of changed careers, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Always is.
It's interesting you guys were talking about sort of like ethical buying and things. So I was working in ethical fashion beforehand, And then when the pandemic happened, so I was working with a lot of factories in China beforehand. So the virus was like way bigger over there at first. So I was like trying to contact them and make sure they were okay. And then when it burst over here, we were then told we couldn't talk to any of the people in the factories and they weren't going to get paid or anything. So they made all of these clothes.
God.
And it wasn't just the company I was working at, like loads of fashion companies did this. So yeah, it was a huge shock to me.
Oh, wow.
So that sort of put me off as well, working in the fashion industry. And now I've changed. I'm trying to work more in like grassroots community organisations.
Oh wow, that's
So good.
amazing.
Is that something you always wanted to do, or did the pandemic sort of push you to do that?
It definitely pushed me. I was always very interested in kind of ethical ways of working in the world and trying to change things from how they are, sort of top-down, destructive corporations. But I think I was like volunteering in community centres and getting to know the local community, and I just sort of inspired me. And I thought, why not just work with the people around me?
And that's really important during the pandemic, like supporting local businesses and your own community.
Yeah, definitely. We can all do that together. There's more of us than there are CEOs.
Because those are the people at the end of the day that you see like on a daily basis, and that
Yeah.
if there was something that was going on, like on your doorstep, those are the people that would be there to support you,
Yeah, exactly.
you know?
Has the pandemic caused any of you guys to alter your plans as well?
Yeah, I feel like I didn't take music as seriously before because I was like very like down that linear path that everyone goes down. So it's like uni and then like corporate job and then 9 to 5, and like I was almost like brainwashed into thinking like that's the way, and now I'm just like that's not what I actually care about. Like people need art to like thrive and like relate to one another and like actually connect, and so like we don't need more like CEOs and investment bankers, like there's enough of them. So like I don't know, I just realised like that's always been a passion, and I always put it on the back burner because like Asian parents as well, like it's not a conventional thing to do. Yeah, my mum still is in like denial like of like that I might do that in my career, but I've been like like we live such a short life, like why would you not go for what you love and just do that every day? So yeah, I've been like just doing a lot of music and doing like I did my first gig. Jason, you didn't come actually.
I couldn't
yeah,
make it,
you
that's
didn't
so
come.
bad.
I know, but it's fine.
She came to mine though.
I know. I thought
He was
would-
amazing though, he was amazing. I
Thanks.
saw your videos.
Thanks.
She was amazing.
Yeah, so I did my first gig and then I'm going to LA, and I don't know, but that's going to hopefully expand my music network and everything, and like it's just crazy, like you can just change like your whole idea of like what you're going to do in life over such a short amount of time, which is what happened for me. So yeah.
I can kind of agree a lot with that, relate to that. I also was, when the COVID started, I was about to graduate from my maths degree and I was planning to go into finance and accounting. But then because I kind of had more time, I was reading more articles, watching videos, and it happened I came across like an AI application that was used to help people, and that's when I became really passionate about it, and I decided to go into AI, and that's when I started my master's. So it did affect my plans, but in a good way.
That's so cool. That's the way forward as well for the world, isn't it, AI?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so cool that it can be used to help others. So the first article that I read, it was about an AI machine that can be used to detect eye disease that may lead to blindness.
Oh, wow.
And this machine doesn't need like a professional or doctor or anything. The machine itself can test the eye and say if this person has an eye disease or not. So this machine was used in India, so you can imagine where there's not many doctors or professionals to help. So it saved a lot of time, it saved money, and also like it avoided a lot of people from getting blind. And I'm so passionate about helping people, and hence why I'm so keen to get into this field.
It's amazing. That's awesome.
Also, that's really cool because, like you were saying, sometimes it's scary to go into a hospital to get the care you need, when actually this is actually very, like, a safer space, I guess, into being another alternative to getting that care that you need.
I bought an oximeter at home because I was worried about going to the hospital about the oxygen, so I just bought it, invested it at home, and then made me feel more comfortable than actually walking in the hospital. But yeah. But I did become a better cook. I think so.
Banana bread, was it?
Naan bread, actually.
Oh.
I did actually make naan bread.
It's nice because sometimes you don't realise your potential, so it sounds like with you guys, it made you realise that, and that's a beautiful thing.
Honestly, I thought I'm a bad cook, but everybody ever ate it. That is good. I'm like, oh, really?
Are you one of those cooks that like everyone likes it but you don't like it yourself? You're like,
basically.
So the second part of this really long question was, how did the lockdown impact your relationships with people? How did you stay connected to people during the lockdowns?
I did a Zoom birthday call.
Yeah,
we had
a
really nice. It was actually quite exciting.
Yeah.
Because like, okay, everybody joined in. It was quite exciting for everybody to come at the same time online and seeing family. But it didn't go too well because everyone's talking on top of each other.
Yeah.
You can't mute them though.
Yeah, I know, but it was fun. I know, but you know, it was really fun. It was a fun experience that we did. But on the other side, obviously, it was sad because some people you like family, like parents, you want to see them, and for their health and for their well-being, you have to kind of take the steps. And it's sad because your mother has given you birth and you can't see her on your birthday. For me, I always seen like that. Like the person who's giving birth, at least I need to see that person on my birthday. So it was horrible, but for her health, we kind of took the steps and we did it. But we kind of made it fun through Zoom, which was all new. Everybody made a Zoom ID, you know.
Especially like your parents and stuff, which sometimes they're like,
Teaching
I don't
them.
need to, teaching them like they're like computers and things like that.
Reminding everybody, make sure you come online. You know, it was quite fun.
Yeah.
It's gonna sound lame, but I played a lot Animal Crossing throughout lockdown. For like reasons, because my sister also plays Animal Crossing. She introduced it to me. So because we couldn't see each other during lockdowns, it was the only way we could like celebrate, meet each other online, play. But it made me realize how much I want to hug my sister. Because she was battling with mental health problems and she didn't know what she was diagnosed with, because during that year it was not really easy for mentally ill people to get help. So when she had a really bad breakdown or she needed help or she needed somebody, I really wanted to hug her. So that was really hard for me. It made me realize like what physical interaction does for people like that, to hug them and comfort them. But overall, we both loved it though. It made us celebrate Christmas and Halloween. It gave us something to look forward to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't the same, I would say.
I've never played Animal Crossing, but it's a very big game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you explain to me what Animal Crossing is and what do you do?
It's not. There's no
Animals Cross?
Everyone plays it differently from what I know. It's just you make your own little world with these animal neighbors, and you visit them. You give them things. They give you stuff back, and you build this island, and you visit other islands, and you meet people like that. And you just create your own little space, your own little world, and you can plant things.
But how do you win?
You don't win.
That's no game.
It's in an all-graded world, so it works on real time, and it made you appreciate time as well.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's actually
cute.
good. It's actually good.
Yeah, it's just a cute game. It's just
On
supposed
DS.
to be Nintendo DS. Yeah, it's really cute. And it was really weird because it couldn't have come at a weirder time, like lockdowns. And the whole world was playing it apparently. It sold out like within a week, I think.
Whoa.
The DS's. So the amount of people who just got into it, didn't even play it before, was astounding.
Yeah.
So, and even Nintendo didn't even thought this was gonna come.
I think it also made you feel connected to other people who you wanted. I think that was also the exciting part of it. Like somebody did you just come to the same level, or have you got this? Or
It was cute because you go on a seaplane and you go into different islands. And it's just cute. It's just a cute game.
Yeah, I think in terms of like staying connected, there were like two extremes.
Yeah.
I would either like become closer to friends or like distance. It wouldn't like just stay the same. And like I'd FaceTime friends I'd never usually FaceTime, and I think overall like it just helps kind of filter people out in like the nicest way possible, and just kind of realizing who's genuine and who like actually reaches out and that kind of thing.
And I found that interesting because some people I didn't think were going to reached out a lot.
Yeah, that's why reaching out is an important thing. And I added FaceTime to my daily routine.
Yeah.
And some people was willing to FaceTime, you could tell, who love you and miss you, and others like they don't miss you or didn't miss you the same way the way you missed them, or maybe cared the same way that you felt for them. But yeah.
And I think it's interesting, like, with making friends online, like, me and Jason met through the collective, and it's, like, it's interesting who resonates with who. Like, we didn't ever see each other in real life, but, like, we just felt vibes.
Months.
For
months. We were
crazy.
like, but we knew it, but then it was like we knew each other so well.
It just felt like we knew each other, which is just crazy, because it's, like, you can just make friends online and, like, feel like you know a person.
Yeah.
And it's, like, that's just changed everything.
Sometimes it felt a bit invasive though, like with your boss seeing like your whole bedroom on like Zoom calls. Like there's levels to it. Yeah, but that's really cute though. Yeah, like making Zoom friends and yeah, because I think it's really nice to still meet people even if you're like doing it from your own home.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next question. How did the lockdowns impact you creatively? I know a lot of you guys are musicians or artists. How did you seek inspiration during this time? And do you think you were more creative or less creative during the pandemic?
I think more, because it made me look at my position in this world and who I am as an artist, and knowing that like I'm a minority of like women of color who are pursuing the arts, and knowing that what that position means to me and what role do I play in that, and then knowing that there's not many of me like me, so I have to be the first to pursue that career. So that
and it's a privilege as well, isn't it? Sometimes you feel like because I'm a person of colour and I can do this, there is such a high stakes and there's so much privilege that comes with that, because so many people that are of colour like are just not in that position
to even think like that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I think just being in my home environment and like seeing my parents and like reconnecting with their stories, I was just like, oh my god, like I'm part of this whole lineage, and it's like it's so easy to forget, and you're like, oh, I'm like in my world, and it's like, no, I'm a part of such a huge like generational like they've built so much for me. And I think like it's affected my style, because like I wear like more like bangles, and like I'm trying to like show that I'm both, and I'm not them, but I'm also not gonna pretend that I'm white, basically.
You're like reclaiming your culture.
Yeah, and just kind of finding something new, like a new balance in a way.
Editing it for yourself.
Exactly.
That's what I say.
Yeah. So I feel like that's affected my music as well, because I did Indian singing, so that's kind of like in my voice that you can hear like little trills and stuff. So that's just like naturally influenced it, because I've like been hearing like my grandma playing like her music downstairs, and like it just naturally affects my music, I think.
I think in the beginning I literally just didn't do, like, I just felt very creatively uninspired, and I'm always like writing or something, or like singing or like playing my instruments, and this is a point I was like, I just don't want to do anything. And I was like, and I tried so hard like to do stuff and to write stuff, but I just couldn't. And then I was like, maybe I just need to take that mental break. So it was weird, because like for the first part I was like so uninspired, and then something like kicked in me, and then all I could do was write. And then I actually wrote about my family. Like I was in this house like with my family, and we're all very, very different people. And I just wrote about this like experience of my family, and like wrote this like TV series, which like got developed like really well, which is really cool. But it's something I'd never thought I'd do, because I write songs and I act as well, but I'd never thought I would be able to write like a TV show. And I just kind of like word vomited this like 6 30-minute episode like series out about my family, and it was crazy. And I thought, okay, I needed to get this out of my system, clearly. And it led me on to thinking like, wow, I can do this. Like I didn't think that's something that's possible, or a skill that I had. And it's like, how did I use my creative skills and transfer them into different outlets? Like I guess something that I thought was really cool, like I love to cook, and like one thing about becoming a vegetarian was it allowed me to explore new foods or find new ways of making a dish. And just trying new recipes or like, and I'm a guest cooker as well. Like, I'm not a recipe, I'm not a measuring person. I'm like, smell, and I'm like, yeah, it needs that. I'm like tasting like along the way, and it just allowed me to find, I was like, oh yeah, this is great, like I need this, and like finding all those things. So I guess I got creative like in that sense as well. But it was good because when things started opening up, I just went 100% back into like music, and it just like exponentially like influenced and changed my music in such a positive way.
I feel like I had the opposite sort of journey in terms of at the beginning, you know, when your brain's just in overdrive, like trying to process everything that's going on. So I was really creative at the beginning of the lockdown. And then I started to question like whether I'm even a poet, like later on. I just had no inspiration. But I think when I started to go for like my really long walks, I'd listen to podcasts, and there was one really cool poetry podcast where they would share poems, and it just felt like I was back at events again. And from that, it kind of inspired me to write poems based off of what they were sharing. So yeah, I think sometimes as a creative, you kind of want everything to like come to you naturally, but I think the pandemic taught me that sometimes I need to like actively go out and seek that inspiration as well.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
I feel like we were all looking for a voice, like our voice, what to say and how to say it. Like as creatives, like we're always looking for what is it that we want to express to the world, and that's why we were saying like we need the arts for this reason, is to have a voice.
Definitely. And it's what keeps people going, especially in times like this when everyone's separated. The arts is what keeps them going, like keeps their spirits up, you know?
I agree.
So the next question is, do you think you've had a unique experience during the pandemic due to being a young person, and how do you think it's impacted your youth?
I guess for me, like I was in college, I was studying abroad with all my friends, and then I had to move back home with my parents, and it was a good thing in a way because I hadn't been able to be with them since high school, so it was good to like live with my parents, and my brother moved in and my cousin. So yeah, that was a nice thing about it.
I would relate to that a lot. So I was in my final year of uni, and I was always like in events or meeting other people, like other uni students. And then suddenly I just had to be at home with my parents, and I'm the youngest out of my siblings. Everyone else is married. I only live with my parents who are in their 60s, and it was as we spoke about before, I really got close to my parents, but I feel like I wasn't connecting with people my age. I wasn't going events. In a way, I had the internal feeling that am I missing out on those like social events?
Yeah, I relate so much because I feel like I was so out of it with pop culture, and like just like when I talk to the youth, like young people, I feel like I was just like the lingo and things like that, because like my parents are quite a bit older, and I was just in general, like my brother's older as well, so I was just talking to a lot of older people, and I think I was having a lot of deep conversations. And then coming back to like my friends, and then they're just talking about, I don't know, like Kim Kardashian. And I'm like, I don't know, it just takes adjusting in a way, because you're so like used to talking about different things. So I was like, yeah, like it was my own bubble at home, and then like coming out of it was just like, okay, all right, this is modern society. Like this is what happens.
Yeah, as much as like I do love my parents, my family, it was good, but I did feel like also like I'm missing out. Like I was just studying abroad, I was just in college, like seeing my friends every day, and then to just seeing like 4 people every day.
I'm devastated if that happens to me, because it sounds like you're studying in Spain. It's amazing opportunities. It sounds like you're making the most out of it now.
Yeah, it's good now.
We adapt and adjust, I guess.
Yeah, I can relate to that because at the end of, so I was like finishing my degree at the beginning of the pandemic, and I feel like as a young person you just think, what am I missing out on? You know, I'm not travelling, I'm not graduating, I'm not like spending time with my friends. But yeah, I think the phrase like everything happens for a reason just kept me going throughout the whole pandemic, because it's easy to just question, you know, why is this happening? I could be doing so much else. But yeah, I think it seems like we've all learned a lot during the pandemic, so there is something that we gained, hopefully. So moving on to the next question, I know a couple of you guys have either moved countries or moved cities during the pandemic, or perhaps planning to. So how do you think the pandemic has affected that? And do you think the experience of moving away has been altered due to COVID?
I've always lived in North London. I've never moved. Actually, I lived in China for 3 months, but that was ages before the pandemic, so I have nothing to say on this topic.
Yeah. Wait, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
So how did you find your whole experience in general in terms of moving country? I think you said you lived in Spain, right?
Yeah.
And how that was impacted by the pandemic?
Yeah, so I was in Spain, like, studying abroad, and I'm from the US, and yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like, we all had to leave. Like, it was a very quick, like, you have to get out now, basically, and everybody's booking flights, and so yeah, that was pretty weird. And then being in the US, like, I was supposed to actually go to London last summer, and I kept, like, waiting, like, hopefully they open up the program again and that COVID goes away, because there was all these rumors that, like, it was gonna stop in spring or in summer because of the heat. So I was, like, counting on that. Didn't happen. But yeah, thankfully, like, I was able to come to the UK through a program now that's still, like, being COVID safe, and there's still, like, certain policies we're following. But yeah, it's definitely not the same traveling. Yeah, we have to be more cautious and all. But
yeah, how did you find friends and like navigating around that during the pandemic?
I guess, well, in the US, I live in Georgia, and it was honestly pretty open. We only, like, shut down completely for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So after that, I started working in a restaurant. So it was all my hometown friends, they were there, but they were actually, a lot of them were getting COVID. Like, they were still hanging out with each other and all. So it kind of, like, I didn't want to get COVID. I didn't want to give it to my parents or anyone. So, yeah, they were all hanging out, and I just kind of had to stay at home with my family. So I didn't really get to see my friends that much. But, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's made us all a lot more, like, selfless in terms of wanting to care for your family and just the world in general. Yeah. Cool, so moving on to the second last question. What's one thing you learned about yourself during the lockdown? And in general, what's one thing you think you're grateful for?
Oh, being with my family for sure. Like, I'm such an introvert, but like spending time with my family is something I really appreciate now. Like, hugging my sister again made me so happy, like the best feeling in the world. And now to be able to be there with her, like supporting her, it makes me so happy now. Like, that I really appreciate more than anything now.
Yeah.
I think I appreciate, like, little things. Like, I was going on a lot of walks and, like, watching the sunrise and, like, the sunset, and I'm just, like, obsessed with the sun. Like, I could just watch the sunset and be, like, amazed every time. And it's like just little things like that, like the sky, birds, nature, like, it's just amazing. And like being alive is just we take it for granted, like, massively. Like, I can, like, get up, walk, go to the toilet, like, I can do so many things that, like, I don't know, someone who's disabled couldn't even, like, get up. And we just massively take that for granted. Like, the fact that I'm here, sitting right now, talking, breathing, being able to understand you guys is just, like, such a gift. Like, I think it just stripped me back to, like, bare basics, and, like, that is enough to just have a good life. Like, just simple things like that.
100%.
Yeah.
I was exactly the same as well. It made me appreciate, like, walks as well, instead of always, you know, going into central London if I wanted to go out. Yeah, I think it also made me realise how much I appreciate people. And even though, like, I would consider myself introverted, I think it made me realise that I also do, like, have a part of myself where I crave, you know, human interactions. And I think, like, distance makes the heart grow fonder, and being stripped away from that made me realise how important it is for me.
Yeah, massively.
Exact same. I used to love solitude. I was like, yes, Sunday I can just like chill on my own, and then being forced to be on my own because I didn't really live with other people. It just made me realise how much I appreciated other people and my relationships. And I think, the one thing I'm most grateful for is all the people that have been there for me over the pandemic, and just having healthy, nourishing, loving relationships and being able to hug people. It's just amazing, isn't it? There's so much that like words can't say, but a hug.
Oh my god, absolutely! I'm such a hugger. I'm being told off being told off hugging people was literally crushing my soul. You know, and part of me was like, I don't care, I'm just gonna hug you. But I was like, no, because like you gotta realise you gotta respect people's boundaries. But definitely appreciating the people in your life and the people that support you and want you to thrive, because you'd have a lot of like people that say they supported you, but it's just presentational, and it's just like jealousy or fakery, and you don't know what people say behind your back. But I mean, that's where they should be, behind your back. Stay front. But it allows you to realise that like you like create new friendships, like our friendship, and like we have a really strong bond, and you know, and you just think, wow, I'm around like-minded people that are in this or that support me in my journey, and some of these people I've just met and I know they're going to be friends for life. And that's one thing I appreciate, because you kind of find like your people too, don't you? Which is amazing, and you find out like your priorities and like how much actually, if I was dying, who is going to be there for me?
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Not your fair weather friends. The real friends that are there for you, thick and thin.
Yeah, especially since I've graduated, I think now, like being out of education with my friendships, it's a thing where if like I'm friends with someone, it's me going out of my way to kind of speak to them or meet up with them. It's not like friendships of convenience like it would have been before, like if you bump into someone at uni or that kind of thing. And I think it's nice just being around people who you genuinely connect with and nothing's like forced anymore. So moving on to the last question, what's one thing you achieved during the lockdown? It could be small or big, anything.
We survived. We're here. We're alive. I think that's like the biggest achievement of all.
And I think also we really achieved that, appreciating NHS, which we didn't before. So I think really what these people are doing, because they continue to work while some of us were sitting at home and working from home or having a break. But appreciating NHS around us really helped.
And how much more investment they need as well. Pay them more, they're doing a fantastic job.
Especially people on hands, like nurses and people who are on hand doing the job.
Yeah.
Appreciating them, they're emotional because they're risking their life to be in.
Yeah, that's what's really sad. A lot of
everyone
people.
That goes, it's COVID, we can't go out, but those people, the nurses and the doctors and everybody, they're going, and the ambulance crew, everybody who's involved in running day to day.
Yeah, and you know what, even though I found it a bit like, the Thursday, Pat for NHS day that we all had before, I was slightly critical of it because, you need to have tangible ways that you're supporting the NHS, but at the same time, I think it was nice to just have that sense of community being like a constant reminder during the lockdown, and just having that day to remind us that people still exist outside of your bubble at home. So like you said, I think appreciating the NHS was a big one, and just appreciating people in general.
Yeah, I got to know a lot of my neighbours, which was so
Same.
I got to know my neighbours and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And one of my neighbours actually has a jacuzzi, so when the thing's lifted, we went over and had a jacuzzi party.
That's Same, we bake for each other.
Yeah, it's sweet, isn't it?
So sweet.
Because you live next door, but you might not even say a word to each other, just a hi and bye, and then actually, because you can't see anyone else, actually you can see this person because they're there. So
Get excited seeing people's faces.
Cool, so it's been lovely speaking to you all. Thanks so much for coming today and sharing your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was so nice.